just wanted to welcome you to my kitchen officially. This is the first vlog that we've put together. And so the first thing that I thought I could do that was pretty simple and economical is make some pizza dough and make some pizza with you. Talon and I like to eat pizza, and it's very expensive if you constantly are buying pizza, and it's not very good for you because they put all shades of bad stuff. So this is a super simple recipe for the dough, and then you can just jazz up the top as much as you want. So for the dough, you're going to need 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of oil, that can be either veggie or olive oil, 2 packages of yeast or 2 1/4 teaspoons, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and 1 cup of warm water. I already boiled some water here. It's nice and warm, so by the time we get to that part, hopefully, it'll be cool enough to use. So this is like a processor. If you have a food processor, this would be a really good recipe to do in that, but I don't, because we're broke, so I use my hands. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix the dry ingredients together. Now this, you could do this in the processor if you wanted to. So we're going to do 3 cups of flour, 1, 2, I'm going to do a little bit less than 3 cups of flour just because I don't want to put too much in and then have to make up for it. So actually I'm just going to put like 2½ cups in, and then as I'm mixing it with my hands I can kind of feel if I need more flour, but sometimes the recipes tend to be temperamental and the last thing you want is too much flour, because then all your yeast to water to flour ratio is going to be all off. So I put 2½ cups of flour in there. Now I'm going to add some salt, so 1 teaspoon of salt. Teaspoon. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of sugar. Don't tell I'm using the same teaspoon. Sorry, Mom. 2 teaspoons of sugar. That's one of her cardinal rules, is using different utensils or washing them out and drying them off between uses. I understand for liquids, but for dries, I can't get behind the extra work. Anyway, so there's that. And I go through my ingredients quickly. They're never sitting on the shelf for more than a couple of weeks, so I haven't had an issue yet. So there are my dry ingredients in there. Don't add your yeast to this. You want it to activate first in some warm water. So our water is probably maybe a little bit too hot, but we'll give it a try. I have a measuring cup here, and I'm going to pour in 1 cup of water. It does look a little bit hot, so I'm gonna do like 3/4 of a cup and fill the rest up with some cold tap water, just so that's not too hot. There's that. I can put my finger in there without scalding myself. There's just some residual oil in there from the last recipe. Again, sorry, Mom. Okay, so then I'm gonna use some yeast. This yeast, I don't know if you ever buy baking yeast, but if you do, it's so much better to buy it in a jar because it lasts way longer. It's only like $7 depending on where you get it, and you can keep it in your fridge for months and months. It won't go bad. Whereas the yeast packets are like, you know, $3 for 3 packets, which doesn't make any sense. This is only half full, or half empty I should say, and I've made like 6 loaves of bread and a couple of pizzas here or there, so there's, you know, plenty more yeast where that came from. So I'm gonna do 2 1/4 teaspoons. So I'm gonna use a ½ teaspoon here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get a little baby quarter. Oh no, that's an 1/4 teaspoon. Who uses an 1/8 of a teaspoon of anything? Do you even taste that? Anyways, so you can see, this is a pretty important part, but the yeast is activating. So that's important, or else you're gonna be in big trouble and you're gonna have dough that doesn't rise, like my earlier failed vlog of my challah it didn't work. It's just a blob in the bottom of a pan. So make sure your yeast does this or else you're gonna eat a brick. Okay, so that's going right now. Now that it's all activated in there, I'm gonna give it a little stir to help mix it up better. Bloop, bloop. I'm gonna add it to my dry ingredients. There it is. And then it says to process it for 60 seconds and add the oil at the same time. I am going to use my hands, so I'm going to wash them really well and take off your bling or bedazzles or whatever, because you don't want dough stuck in there forever. It's all hard and doughy, nasty. And these little guys do have bacteria no matter how clean you are. So give your hands a good scrub. Okie dokie. And remember, I didn't add all the flour, so we're gonna add the remaining flour to this. I'm gonna add some of the oil now. I ran out of olive oil. It's very sad to have used no-name yucky canola oil, so hopefully that won't ruin the recipe. Please use olive oil if you have it. Veggie oil, not good for you. Not good. Yes, but for this purpose, it'll be just fine for us here. So I want to do tablespoons, and I don't have a clean tablespoon. Don't watch this part. Okay. So that's a 1 tablespoon and a 2. And then I'm going to have my flour here nice and ready for the mixing process so that I can just put some more in. This is nice and gooey. A little bit hot from the water, so be careful. So mix it up real nice. It's gonna stick to your fingers. I always laugh, get my creeper face on when I'm mixing dough, just because it feels so cool. It's all squishy between your fingers. It's like when you're a kid out playing in the mud, and it's all soft and squishy, and you put your toes in it and it squishes around. Yeah. Alright. I'm going to add some more flour slowly but surely. I don't want to add it too quickly, so I'm going to do like a 1/4 cup, sprinkle it on there. One thing that you can add is some herbs to the dough. I like to add basil. I dried some basil out of our garden last year. So you can do basil or oregano or whatever suits your fancy. You could probably even do fresh. I've done that in the past. It's turned out really tasty. So at this point, I think I've added enough flour where it's not sticking to my hands, it's not sticking to the bowl, but it's still a little bit sticky, because when we roll it out, we're going to be adding just a titch more flour so that it doesn't stick to the counter, but therefore it goes into the dough. You don't want to over flour. So this is probably where you could put some basil in or anything, something like that. So now at this point, after you mix in any herb that you want, you can set this by the fire. If you have a wood stove, or you could set it somewhere warm, preferably. You can also heat up your oven to like 150 or 200, turn it off, and then put the dough in there, just to kind of give it a little cozy environment. So I'm going to set this by the fire. You want it to probably double in size, depending on where you're at. I think elevation-wise matters, and how good your yeast was, how old it is or fresh. Yeah, so let that rise, and I'll, in the meantime, show you how to make some super easy, delightful sauce that's very cheap, way cheaper than buying, you know, a jar of pasta sauce or tomato sauce. So yeah.